The murder trial for Trezell and Jacqueline West is scheduled to get started later this month in California. In this episode, we go back to the beginning and take you through a timeline of events regarding the disappearance of Orrin and Orson West. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the True Crime Squad. This is Katie Weaver. I'm here with my sister, co host, and partner in crime, Kristi Brower. Hello.
Hello. Hey, everybody.
How's it going?
It is going very well. Had a good day. Beating,
Good.
staying inside because we got a whole lot of snow yesterday, and
Ooh.
I would like to stay out of it. Thank you very much.
Last night we had dinner at our sister's house, and uh, it snowed. It put down a good few inches while we were in the house eating
Yeah.
dinner and playing a really fun card game and, not
Mhm.
really realizing what the weather was doing.
Yeah.
When we left, our roads were so bad coming home.
Oof, I wondered.
We actually hit a spot where we started to fishtail and spin.
Ooh.
And Scott is a master driver.
Mhm.
If it was up to me, it would definitely be in a snowbank somewhere. But he,
Oh.
yeah, steered us out of it. But it scared the shit out of both of us. Neither of us spoke again until we got home.
Oh,
We
I'll
were both
bet.
just like, don't
Yikes.
breathe, don't do anything. Yeah. By the time we
Ooh.
got to the highway, it was just wet the rest of the way. But oh man, that was so scary.
Oh, that is.
So I'm all done
Damn.
with winter now.
Yeah,
All done here.
I hear that. I
Yeah.
hear that.
Yuck. Yeah. Well, it is our Tuesday episode. And
Yes, it is.
so I've been rereading through all of the West children's case and thinking
Mhm.
about how close we are to seeing like what, because there's been a gag order, like we really don't know anything
Yeah,
about
so little.
what the evidence is in that case and why
Mhm.
the prosecutors think that they know what they know. So I'm really really curious, but that's a case we're going to keep a really close eye on and report on heavily. So we
Yeah.
wanted to recap it, so we're going to do that today. But before we do that, Kristi, you're going to lead us off with some serial killer news.
Boy, am I. Just when you think you have heard every crazy serial killer story, something else happens. So, this is the werewolf. That's not his real name, but that's what he kind of goes by. He's a Russian serial killer. His real name is Mikhail Popkov.
Okay.
He has been in prison in Russia since 2012.
Okay.
He's one of the most prolific serial killers in to ever be caught in Russia. He was convicted of murdering 83 women between 1992 and 2012.
Wow.
The police honestly think, or the prosecutor, whoever was working this case, believe that it's actually somewhere between 200 and 300 people that he
My
killed.
God.
And he tortured people. He was a police officer, by the way. He was a Russian
Oh,
police officer, and he murdered vulnerable women because they were sex workers. And so he was doing
uh-huh.
morality a favor.
Yes.
He used knives, axes, and screwdrivers to murder and torture his victims. I mean, this is
Oh,
a seriously, seriously bad guy, right?
yeah.
So you'd think he's locked up, good, locked up for life,
Mhm.
thank God he's done, right? Well, not quite. So you may or may not know this, but Russia has been releasing prisoners to use in their war against Ukraine. They have actually released something like 40,000 prisoners
Oh
to
my
fight in
God.
the war in Ukraine. Yeah. Well, guess
Ugh.
who really, really wants to get out and go fight in Ukraine?
Oh, for the
The
love.
werewolf. Yeah. He
Oh my
actually,
God.
right, right. So he got permission to be interviewed on Russian state TV and basically is begging Putin to let him out so that they can turn him loose on Ukraine.
Oh, that's horrifying.
He wants to enlist in the army. He said, if I refer to my military registration profession, because he was in the military at one point,
Mhm.
I think it's in quite high demand presently, and I would not hesitate to do so. But even though I've been in prison for 10 years, I don't believe it would be so hard to learn rapidly radio and electronics, because that's what he did when he was in the military before. He, he said, apparently it was asked if he was, if this was just wanting to get out for any reason. And he declared, this is not a video game. And these are not superhero novels, in referring to the war in Ukraine. And he has made a very big plea to Putin to be released to go and fight in Ukraine, which is what? Go and murder a bunch of women and torture women in Ukraine? I mean, is that what he really, because that's what he'll do. Yeah. So.
Oh my gosh, that's so gross and
Yeah.
pretty terrifying for the women of Ukraine and
Yes, it is.
everywhere for this fool to possibly be released from prison.
Right. No
But
decision's been made
it
yet.
tracks. It
But
really freaking tracks.
right. I mean, they've already released 40,000 prisoners, but I don't think any of them were serial killers.
Not so fast. Who
Right.
knows?
It's possible, but I don't know if any of them were as bad as this dude. So
Right.
pretty terrifying. Just
I
thought
can't
I would bring that
imagine
to
any of
everybody's
them were
attention.
as bad as this dude. I can't
Right.
even imagine that's possible.
Right. So something to keep an eye on, I think,
Mm-hmm.
to be a little more aware of, because obviously the women of Ukraine and the women of the world, because if they send him over there in the military, it's not like they're going to get him back.
Right.
Need to know that this dude may be out on the street.
Yeah.
And, headed for women in Eastern Europe. So horrifying, makes me want to throw up. Thought we should talk about it.
Ugh. Okay. We'll definitely keep an eye on it.
Yeah. And with that, I will kick the mic back to you for our main case.
Okay. So, of course, we are talking about Orrin and Orson. These little boys disappeared, Orrin and Orson West. These little boys disappeared, and it happened in California. When this case happened, it just did not feel like it got enough press. I still don't feel like it got enough press. In researching it again to just make sure I have the timeline right, now I'm still like, how has this case not caught more wings than it has? But that's a whole nother conversation. But I want to talk about them because their adoptive parents were charged with their murders, and they will be going to trial. Their 20th is their kind of last check in with the judge to make sure everybody's ready to roll. And then their trial is supposed to start on the 30th. Now, it was supposed to be in July, and then it was kicked out to October, and then it was kicked out until January. I'm feeling pretty confident that it's going to happen this time because they haven't rescheduled it yet, and we're getting really close.
Right. You'd think they would have postponed before now if that was looking like that was going to happen.
Yeah. So I want to just go through the details of the case. First and foremost, this is what these two little sweethearts looked like.
Poor little boys.
And so let's start at the very beginning. They are 3 and 4 years old. And on December 22nd, 2020, they were supposedly playing outside. Now, please take this with a grain of salt. I know. You don't have to tell me. This is all nonsense. We know. But this was the story that was told at the time, okay?
Right.
So at the time, supposedly they were playing outside in their backyard. They're just outside of Bakersfield. And Dad was gathering firewood He says he went back in the house, and when he came back out, the boys were gone. 3 and 4.
Hmm.
He says that he drove through the nearby streets, spoke with neighbors, and couldn't find them. Around 6 p.m., they were reported missing to the police. Around 8 p.m., it was California City, sorry. California City police sent out a news release and let people know we have a missing little boy in the neighborhood. However, the news release was a description of the boys but had no name or picture associated with it. And it took many hours for the rest of that information to come out.
That's odd.
It is odd. It wouldn't have changed anything, but I thought it was odd.
Hmm.
Later that night, the community came out really well for these guys. Volunteers from all over the community and the police, they start searching areas where the boys went missing. They are right on the edge of a big desert. And so they searched and searched and searched. They brought canines to the home. The dogs find the scent of the boys in the house, but not outdoors, which is very weird,
Yeah.
considering that they supposedly were playing in the backyard. They had not lived there very long.
Right.
The family had not lived there very long. So they found nothing. Tuesday morning, all the volunteers came back and they just continued to search. They found nothing. By Tuesday afternoon, the police take parents in for some questioning. By Tuesday night, the investigators have a search warrant and they go through the home and leave with some evidence in brown bags and a duffel bag. The parents' van is towed to be searched. The police tell the FBI that the parents are cooperating. Wednesday afternoon, the adoptive parents speak with the media. This is the first time we really hear from Trezell and Jacqueline West, and this is
Hmm.
them during that interview. And of course, they are basically telling the same story. They say that they were told by police to stay in their home during the search. There was a lot of criticism from the locals that they're all out searching for their little boys and they're sitting in their house. But they want to make sure that people understand that that's because the police told them to do that. They again tell the same story about how the boys went missing. They say that they started fostering the boys in 2018 and then adopted them in 2019. Now, they have 2 other adopted children and 2 bio children. Um, I think they were all boys. All
Hmm.
of them were removed from their home at the time that the other 2 went missing. That's one thing to note when there's a case like this. One of the first thing that happens is the other children are removed from the home
Hmm.
for a time until the police can investigate what happened.
In a lot of situations, not always, but
Yeah,
often.
yeah, often. And at that point, the West do say that their cell phones and other tech devices were taken by police. Wednesday afternoon, the police come and search their home again. Wednesday night, investigators set up bright lights in the backyard and search the backyard. Uh, by the 29th, they are still searching for these children, and the police tell the media that they do suspect foul play and that they found nothing when they dug up the family's backyard. At this point, the neighbors and the locals and the true crimers are just exploding
Mm-hmm.
over this case. Of course, there's some talk from neighbors about hearing chaos in that yard, about seeing that van leave and come back at weird hours of the night. Some neighbors that claim they have never seen those children, others that say that they thought they saw those children over there playing. Parents on both sides, very angry and upset. And a bio mom coming out of the woodwork who says that she believes that the children were taken from her and her rights were severed illegally in order for the
Right.
West to adopt the little boys. And in fact, she
Mm-hmm.
has a multi-million dollar suit going on right now with the Department of Children and Family Services in California for due to that fact, because
Mm-hmm.
she was not given the opportunity for reunification. She was also never charged with a crime. or anything.
Wow.
The way the boys were taken from her, we'll get there, but it's pretty concerning.
Yeah.
Okay, so by January 2nd, the extended family of the boys are now talking to the press. They're asking for help. The West home now has been targeted by vandals and people throwing rocks at the house and an attempted break in. By January 4th, businesses have offered a total of $25,000 to anyone who can find the boys. By January 17th, that money raises to $100,000 to anyone who can uh, lead any information up to the boys' whereabouts.
Mm-hmm.
By January 25th, the police department is asking to report anyone seen trespassing at the adopted parents' house because the locals are uh, raising hell with them.
Well, they
People,
so worried for these little kids.
hmm and people pretty much immediately when this case happened blamed them. Pretty much immediately, felt like they were full of shit. Um, that that I remember very clearly about this
Mm-hmm.
case. That people
Yeah.
felt like there's no way what they're saying is what happened. One of the things that was reported early is that there was a Christmas tree in the home and there were a few gifts under the tree. There were gifts under the tree for all four of the other West children and not a single gift for either of these little boys,
Yeah.
which, folks thought was pretty strange. At the
Yeah.
time that the boys went missing, all of the other kids were at grandma's house. So these two were the only ones that would have been home with dad. Why? Why wasn't everyone at grandma's house? Why weren't there Christmas presents under the tree for these little boys?
Mm-hmm.
That to me is so strange. I mean, this
Yeah.
was 4 days before Christmas, 3 days
Right.
before Christmas.
Starting to paint a picture and not a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yep. On February 1st, uh, sonar radar was used in the West Yard that turned up absolutely nothing. On February 14th, the Bio family, this is where the Bio family really starts to get more active. They raised money to put up billboards about the missing boys and did so. February 19th, protesters gathered outside of Department of Human Services to rally to continue to raise awareness for these boys and also for their bio mom, who's, as we said, feels like the laws were broken in this case in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
All right. By March 6th, they search a field in the area of Cottonwood and East Pacheco roads. This one had people all aflutter. They thought maybe they really knew something at this point, and this is where they were going to find them.
Mm-hmm.
They did not. And the police said they could not say what led them to the field because they needed to preserve the integrity of the investigation.
Right.
March 9th, another group that follows these cases has some billboards put up in Wichita, Kansas. Strangely, I could never understand that, why we put up billboards in Kansas for little boys missing out of California. But
Mm-hmm.
there were missing persons groups all over, trying to help at any
Right.
rate.
Right. A lot of people jumped in just in case they'd been, you know, taken
Yeah.
across state lines and that kind of thing.
On March 15th, the Bakersfield police confirmed that they had a search warrant on March 12th at the home of Orrin and Orson West's adoptive grandmother. This, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, was mom's mom.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they said that they really couldn't tell anyone why they were there or what they found, but that they did search that home.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's giving the public a good sense that the police are at least working on it and trying, because the frustration over them not being found at this point is pretty rough.
Oh yeah.
By March
It's
19th,
way too long for this to go.
but these kids still just vanished in thin air.
Yeah.
By March 19th, the Reward for them stands at $125,000.
Mm-hmm.
March 28th, Wanda West, the adoptive grandma, this is Dad's mom, releases a statement asking the community to continue to search for her grandsons. She writes about losing Oren and Orson, but also her other 4 grandsons to CPS, and that she wants this to end and wants these boys to be found so her family can be okay. She said, "Somebody knows exactly where Oren and Orson are and what happened in December. Come forward. God and our family has already forgiven you. And you will be
That's
free from guilt and burden I know you are carrying. These are babies who are loved and have an entire future waiting for them to explore." Like someone's just holding them?
right. Like that's just implying that somebody just took them and is taking great care of
Hmm.
them. Just bring them home.
Yeah.
That's just not how these things work.
Release them and yourself from all of this. All we want are the boys back. Oh, uh-huh. That's really tough to take at this point.
Yeah, after that much time.
Hmm. So by June, the Bakersfield PD releases some new info. They say that 44 search warrants have been served, 83 people have been interviewed, and 170 items seized in the investigation. So, because again, the police are feeling some real pressure, which is good. That needed to
Mhm.
happen.
For sure.
So, this whole year passes and nothing happens.
Right.
On December 15th of 2021, there's a toy drive in their honor. The bio parents are still, talking to the news and asking what is going on. The adoptive parents are absolutely silent, just radio silent. They aren't saying shit.
They went silent really fast. It was one of the things
Really
that I
fast.
noticed about this case that I thought was very odd, is
Hmm.
that they just dropped off the face of the earth real quick,
Real quick. Yep. So,
which that just doesn't track with
yeah.
people that are, terrified for the safety of their kids.
Yep. So then move on into 2022. On March 1st, Trezell and Jacqueline West are indicted and charged with second-degree murder.
Yep.
There was a warrant out for them, and they had been kind of on the run-ish. They were in a motorhome,
Hmm.
and somebody in a gas station saw them and knew that I'm not sure if they knew there was a warrant or they knew that these were the adoptive parents of these kids, but they called it in because they saw them and thought that it was weird. And the police were able to pull them over and serve the warrant.
See something, say something.
Yep.
It really helps,
Who knows how long those two could have been
right?
on the lam and I believe it was a borrowed motorhome or something along those lines. Like it was really serendipitous that this
Hmm.
person saw them and thought to call it in, or it could have really turned into a thing. But
Right.
so then on March 2nd, there's a press conference with the DA, Cynthia Zimmer, but she doesn't really give any information because, of course, she can't, except to say
Right.
that there was enough direct and circumstantial evidence to convince a grand jury that the boys were murdered.
Right.
She also, at that point, reveals that the boys had been murdered 3 months prior to being reported missing.
Yeah.
Remember those no presents under the Christmas tree? Well, now we know why.
Yeah.
Those boys were gone for months.
Yeah. They were gone since like September or October.
Hmm. Yep. On March 3rd, they are arraigned, and another bio mother said her boys were also placed with the Wests, and she has never heard from them since and wants proof of life from CPS.
Hmm.
Because what the hell?
Right.
On
So,
March
because they have a
7th,
total, so they had a total of 4 children that they had adopted, right?
mm-hmm,
And then
but
2
they had
bio.
been foster parents too, so it's
Um,
possible that her kids had just been fostered by the Wests and maybe not adopted by them too.
right.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. On March 7th, the defense attorney holds a press conference and accused DA Cynthia Zimmer of spreading false information. And the result of that is then on March 8th, a gag order that
Mhm.
has really put this case under wraps. We
Yeah,
have hardly heard a thing about it since.
right. Just waiting for it to hopefully someday go to trial, but
Mm-hmm.
still no bodies even. They have not
Yep.
even found the kids.
Yep. Except for that, there was in July of 2022, there were more counts against them, more charges
Mhm.
against them from another convening of the grand jury.
Wow.
So their total counts right now are 2 counts of second-degree murder, 2 counts of child cruelty, falsely reporting an emergency, involuntary manslaughter, and conspiracy. Just kind of a weird combo, but not all of it. But the involuntary manslaughter, I think, is kind of strange considering, you know. But those are the charges.
I wonder
Has
if so sometimes, and we've seen this before, where people will be charged with kind of multiple levels of the same crime to
mhm.
give the jury the opportunity rather than acquit. Is it
Uh-huh.
possible maybe they're guilty of something that's lesser
Yeah.
than the top level charge? It might be
Mhm.
something like that. I don't know for sure, but I know we've seen that before.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing that happened in this case last year is that the parents from jail, they've never bonded out. They have tried to gain visitation access to their other children.
Right.
And the state actually issued a restraining order to prevent that from happening and said, absolutely not. First of all, those kids could be witnesses to a
Right.
crime. They easily could be witnesses to a crime. As a matter of fact, they are witnesses to a crime
They are.
because those little boys were gone for 3 months
Right.
and they were the babies. They were the youngest and they were 3 and 4. The other kids are a little older and shortly they noticed that their brothers were just no longer around
Right.
at the very least.
Yeah, at the very least that, but there's been other talk too about that
Mhm.
there was abuse of these 2 little boys where the older
Mhm.
kids were encouraged to participate in the
Yeah.
physical abuse of the kids, and
Mhm.
I'm sure that a lot of that grand jury information is coming from the kids.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
would
have any doubt of
imagine.
that.
Mhm. Yep. So obviously, no, you may not have contact with them for on many levels of why, but I've always thought that was pretty fascinating that they tried. So they were supposed to go to trial in October. Their attorney had filed a brief that she was just simply not ready and that she needed more time. And so they bumped it out to January, and here we are. So again, they have court on Friday of this week on the 20th, and we'll get to know probably nothing at that point. But then the 30th is when this starts. And we
Mhm.
should be able to at least have a peek into what's the evidence.
Right,
Why do
right.
they think that? There were a lot of people speculating that some other family members may have ended up catching a charge as well. I don't believe that ever actually happened, but there was a lot of speculation that maybe some other family had helped them to conceal this crime because
Mhm.
that was the other thought. There's they have a big family around them.
Right.
How had none of them seen these children in months?
Yeah,
Or what had they told them about where these kids were? There's a
right,
lot of questions about who knew what and when
right.
and what they did with that information, if anything, and it's going to get interesting. I can see that right now.
It is. It is. Well, and I'm curious to see what happens with these lawsuits against DCFS because,
Mhm.
there are very specific rules, and every state's rules are slightly different for the termination of parental rights, but it doesn't
Mhm.
just happen. Like,
Right.
for example, in Idaho, um, parents have to be given a certain amount of time for reunification. In Idaho, if a child is in the state's custody in foster care for 15 months, and it doesn't even have to be 15 consecutive months. It can be total 15 months.
Mm-hmm.
And parents have not met their treatment plan goals and not, come to the ability to care for their children adequately. That's when the state can seek severing parental rights, but it
Mm-hmm.
takes time. That's also not a fast
Mm-hmm.
process.
That is typically the thing the courts want to do the very least.
It is. I mean, their parents are generally given a significant number of chances. My
Mm-hmm.
question with these cases too, though, is that these children all have two parents, and
Mm-hmm.
we're only hearing from the mothers. Where are the fathers?
We've been
Because
hearing from Bio Dad.
have
We've
we?
been hearing from Bio Dad because he also wasn't given any opportunity to take custody of the children when they were removed from her.
See that unless he is totally inappropriate, and by
Mm-hmm.
inappropriate I mean, has been convicted of serious violent crimes
Mm-hmm.
or whatever,
Or
something
was
like that.
incarcerated, or
Yes,
was
or
totally
was
unable to take
incarcerated.
them.
Um, but normally, what happens is that all family members around kids that are in foster care, if it's looking like it's going to go that direction, then they start vetting family. Who
Mm-hmm.
can we place these kids with instead of parents?
Yeah.
I'm an adoptive parent. I've been a foster parent. I know how this system works in Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
Now, California's laws will be different because it's a different state, but it's not going to
Mm-hmm.
be that much different.
No.
I mean, and parental rights, that's not going to be different. Like, both parents either have to sign voluntarily or be sued by the state, and then basically there's a trial and the judge will determine,
Yeah.
whether parental rights should be severed or not. But parents have to be given an opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to work, to work their goals and to create a safe environment for their kids. They have
Mm-hmm.
to they have to do that. And of course, with little guys, 3 and 4
Mm-hmm.
year olds, it's stiffer. The rules are harder
Yeah.
because they have to be to protect
Mm-hmm.
them. Older kids, it's not as difficult, but
Mm-hmm.
my son's family went through this, and I'm very well. One thing that I think that we had figured out when they had only been, I don't think they'd been in foster care enough time
No, they were
to
right. They
have
weren't.
been
They
eligible for severance. Maybe, depending on California's law.
correct. I think at one point, yeah, we had done the math and decided they hadn't even been in foster care anywhere close to a year.
Yeah, it all happened really fast.
Mm-hmm.
It does seem very underhanded to me, and
Mm-hmm.
I can't say for sure, but there are a lot of questions. Wasn't there something also about that a family member works for DCFS and actually was involved in the placement of these kids with the
That was the
Wests?
conversation that was had. It was never verified, but that was a conversation that floated around the internet. Was that one of the grandmothers worked for DCFS and had helped with this
Mm,
placement and the placement of their other children, because that also seems like it might have been sketchy. Uh,
mhm.
one of the bio grandfathers also filed suit against DCFS. I can't find a single thing about those cases at this point. I'm assuming
They'll
they're
be
all just still
100% sealed.
pending. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, in there, that's going to be 100% sealed.
Right, because it's juvenile. Yep.
Yeah, but it
Yep.
does really make me wonder, like,
Mm-hmm.
what did go on, and did they break their own rules, and how did they get
Right.
around the law? What happened there?
Mm-hmm.
But that is really scary, because also, how were the Wests vetted? It's not like you just magically become foster parents and then
Right.
magically become adoptive parents through the state. There's all kinds of requirements. But unfortunately, as soon as children are adopted, the state completely drops the case.
Yeah.
Those kids are now legally
Mm-hmm.
family of these parents, and the state
Mm-hmm.
pulls out completely.
Yeah.
But there's lots of, or should be,
Mm-hmm.
lots of oversight leading up to adoption. But all of this
Yeah.
happens so fast. Like, we went through 6 months of supervision
Mm-hmm.
before we adopted our son, and my son was 16 when we adopted him.
Right.
And so I would think for, little children like this, it would be more, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I mean, I know that the state system in California and the DCFS system in California is a behemoth because of
Mm-hmm.
their population is so much bigger, so I can't speak to all of it, but it
Mhm.
all seems sketchy to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it absolutely does. It's really concerning, and honestly, because of the outcome of any of these lawsuits potentially just being sealed and us never hearing anything about them, it's not good because the public really
No.
needs to know and demand better if this is
Yeah.
what's happening. I
Yeah. What
also
kind of
would really
sketchy
like to know
shit's
what
gone
happened
down
with
here?
the other kids. Yeah, with the other lady that also said her kids ended up with the Wests and she wants to know what the hell's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very concerning,
Mhm.
because if this was an illegal adoption, if it was not a legal placement,
Mhm.
um, we need to know,
Yeah.
because the adoption and foster care system is not perfect in any state.
Mhm.
They're all problematic in their own ways,
Mhm.
and there have to be big changes if these
Yeah.
kids were in fact placed with these people illegally and then they murdered
Mhm.
them. I mean, this is
Yep.
horrifying.
Yep. Yep. For sure. Yeah. So we are going to keep a very close eye on this case. You'll hear a
Mhm.
lot about it here in the next few weeks to come as the trial starts to unfold. If it does, you know how these things go. If it
Right.
doesn't, we'll let you know, but we're anticipating that it will go. So
Hmm.
that's what we know so far. So, Kristi, I'm going to kick the mic back over to you for our last part of the show. And I believe this is a true crime update.
Yes. You probably remember Ethan Crumbley. Here's a picture of Ethan now. Ethan has grown nearly a foot and quite a lot since we first saw him last year,
Hmm.
and um, when he committed a school shooting.
Hmm.
We've covered his case a lot, mostly because of his parents. His parents are currently in jail awaiting their own trials on on this case because they provided the gun for him. They didn't give him mental health services like he needed, those kinds of things. And so they are charged with involuntary manslaughter for the deaths of the four people who died when he
Hmm.
killed. Well, he has now pled guilty to his charges and is awaiting sentencing, although that sentencing currently is kind of up in the air about
Hmm.
when that's going to happen. There's a lot to come into play because he
Hmm.
was 15 when those crimes were committed.
Yeah.
Um, so he did opt to plead guilty rather than use a mental health plea, which is pretty interesting because that's what his public defender, his attorney wanted him to do,
Hmm.
because Ethan has pretty clearly got some significant mental health issues.
Hmm.
He has said that he felt like that he should plead guilty because he knows that he did all of this with intent. He knows he did it.
Hmm.
He did it on purpose and intended to cause pain and fear,
Hmm.
which I think is rather interesting because his charges are rather interesting because one of the things that he has been now convicted of is terrorism.
Hmm.
That's new. I mean, we're not seeing, especially kids, school shooters haven't really
Hmm.
been being charged with terrorism charges
Hmm.
for school shootings. But I
Right, right.
mean,
But domestic terrorism, indeed.
yeah,
I I think it's interesting because, and I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong, but I would not suspect this was out of any kind of conscience or altruism of any sort. I feel like
it
this
may,
was entirely out of hanging his hat on this crime. This is the kid who was asking for his fan mail from jail.
yeah, he was
Yeah.
ready to be a celebrity
Hmm.
over it. But a couple of things that he said in court that really is detrimental to his parents' case. First of all, he says that he gave his parents the money to buy the gun. So
Yeah.
he, in fact, purchased the gun through them
Hmm.
at 15 years old with a serious mental illness going on, a mental illness that parents at 100% knew about and were
Hmm.
ignoring. The other thing that he confirmed that we've believed all along is that the gun was not locked up. That he
Mhm.
knew exactly where it was, he knew where to go get it, and it was not locked up.
Yeah.
So those are two things that went in that were part of his testimony
Mhm.
in pleading guilty that are going to really harm his parents' defense.
Yep.
They're going for
Yep.
everything, that.
Mhm.
But the fact that he provided the money and they bought the gun for him,
Mhm. That's
um,
bad. Yeah.
that's real bad. And the fact that the gun was not locked up, it
Mhm.
was not secured and kept in a safe place, that he could just walk into a room and open a drawer and pull it out.
Mhm.
So like this, it's going to be life in prison. But here's the thing:
Mhm.
in Michigan, it's not currently legal to sentence a child to life in prison. He's been charged as an adult. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of that's why his sentencing is kind of up in the air for now, is they have to figure out how they can do that. It is absolutely what the state and the prosecutor, the prosecutor and the judge is what they want.
Mhm.
But it's not been done before
Mhm.
in Michigan. And it is a horrible thought to think at 16 years old, this kid's going to go away for life.
Yeah.
All of it's horrible. Every single bit of this case is horrible. But
Mhm.
that's why we may not see sentencings happen for a while, because they have
Yeah.
to figure out what the law will allow them to do.
Yeah.
Um, and in the meantime, his parents go to trial.
Well,
And
their child's on an indefinite hold right now.
well, I think they had to get through with Ethan before they could really
Mhm.
decide what to do with them. But the fact
Right.
pled guilty. He has confirmed the gun was not locked up. He has confirmed that he provided the money and his parents purchased the gun for him.
Mhm.
Bad. It's bad for them.
Yep. And
It's stuff we
he has been subpoenaed to testify at
in
their
their trial.
trial.
Right. And it will definitely not do them any good. It
Yeah.
will hurt their defense for sure. But I am glad, at least for the sake of the victims' families
Mhm.
and the other kids at the school, and everybody who has been so traumatized by this experience with him, that they will not have to testify.
Yes. Yes.
So
Absolutely. Okay.
somebody had
Well,
commented on YouTube if we knew this had happened, and we had, and I was planning to use it as a segment so we
mhm.
could talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's a strange thought to think that a kid this young could be sentenced to life,
Yeah.
but then it's also a strange thought to think that a kid this young would do what he did. So
Yeah, for sure. Ugh. Well, we'll keep an eye on it and definitely keep an eye on Jennifer and James Crumbley's trial
yes,
whenever it finally comes to task. Right now,
right,
it's on an indefinite hold because their attorneys are trying to question the constitutionality of charging them at all,
right,
which I suspect they'll lose. They're just trying everything because basically the evidence
mhm,
is all on the table and it's
right.
not good.
No, it isn't. And, this is not something that's been done very much. We've seen
Mm-mm.
it happen with young, very young children who get access
Hmm.
to a gun and shoot themselves or somebody else. But we have not seen this in teenagers and older.
Hmm. Hmm.
That it's also going on with Robert Cremo's
Hmm.
dad.
Yeah.
Same thing. He's been charged because he signed to get, signed on his gun permit,
Hmm.
because he was too young to get one on his own, and
Hmm.
authorities have now charged him as an
Hmm.
accessory in his crimes.
Yeah.
So we're starting to see this. It's
For
good
similar reasons,
for very
because
similar
Robert
reasons.
Cremo is also terribly mentally ill and
Yes,
had
and
eh, done all
scary.
kinds of scary things to his family.
Yeah,
And then his dad helped him access all these weapons.
yeah, knowing what a danger this kid was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for both
Mhm.
families, it's the same thing. It's very being handled very differently, though. Robert Cremo's dad bonded out almost immediately on a $50,000 bond,
Mhm.
and Ethan Crumley's parents are being held on $1 million bonds, and they have not been able to bond out.
No.
So
I think
it is kind of
500,000
all over the
each.
place.
But
Yeah,
yes, yeah.
it's all over the place,
Mhm.
because our system is not built for this.
No. This is new and precedent setting. I hope
And
it's precedent setting.
it's time to catch up. Yeah.
I will say I'm a little surprised that at this point, as of this taping at least, the 6-year-old who shot their teacher 2 weeks ago that their mother has. The police are now saying that it was her gun, legally purchased,
Yeah.
and I'm very surprised that we haven't seen charges against her yet.
Still, from what I've read, it's still very possible.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
But yeah, there's a lot of investigation still going into that. They can remove him from her custody. They can take her legal rights to him because of this if they have to institutionalize him or whatever they're going to do. I mean, they're holding him in a hospital because they don't have anywhere else to hold him. He's 6.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been watching that one too because I'm suspecting that there will be charges to the parent.
Yep. Yep. Okay, well, there you have it. So, this is our Tuesday episode. We're going to be back tomorrow on Wednesday for a big day of true crime business
Yeah.
because we'll have a brand new episode in the morning. Then we will move on to Wednesday night case updates at 7. And then at 8:15, for any of you that subscribe, we'll be back for the cold read party.
Yes.
And then there's something else going down this week.
Boy, there is.
It's the biggie. It is a big trip to court for the De Balvalos, and we're going.
We are going, yes.
We've said in the past we might go. We've kicked some around. There's way too much happening this time. There is absolutely no excuse for us to not attend court. So we are going. We won't be able to stream anything. We're not even sure if we can live tweet. We'll find out. If not, we'll see you on the flip side of that one and do a live stream and tell you all about it. So big week for us.
Yeah, very big, busy. Busy stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you have it, you guys. So have a great day. Take good care of yourselves. As always, please like, share, subscribe. That helps us a lot. And we'll see you soon. This has been yet another production of the True Crime Squad. Take care.
Bye, everybody.